Good morning and welcome to the 2020 Entrepreneur Experience with Cork Vic. My name is Tom Lyons and I'm the Chief Executive of a digital business publisher called The Currency. I was fortunate enough to participate in the Entrepreneur Experience 2 years ago. Back then, my business, which I co-founded with Ian Keogh, who's a fellow journalist, it was just an idea. Basically, a couple of pages long business plan. And since then, with the help of some of the people we met during the entrepreneur experience, we've managed to create an actual business. We're still in our first year's trading, so I can't say we're profitable yet, but we're definitely on that journey, as they say, that important journey towards profitability. In this session, we're being joined by two great entrepreneurs. One is Tom Gannon and the other is Niall McGrath. They're the co-founders of Cali Cali Foods. They're both very experienced entrepreneurs, having previously co-founded together Fulfill Nutrition. I suppose, guys, just to kick off, just to tell me a little bit about your interest in food, in distribution, and in creating new products. Where did that come from for you both?
Well, both of us worked for 20 years prior to setting up Fulfill. We've been working in food and drink. We started with a company called Richmond Marketing, and that's a food and drink importer distributor into the Irish market, doing lots of kind of innovative brands, very entrepreneurial spirit and culture in the business as well. Tom was heading up all the sales and I was heading up the marketing. And so we were looking after brands like Red Bull, and we launched Peroni into the Irish market. We launched
Vita Coco,
Hendrick's Gin, lots of really cool, interesting brands. And we just noticed one of the things we did every year was we went to New York looking at trends. If we hit our sales target, the directors went off on a buying trip. And the
marketing guys got the free ride on the sales stuff, which was all driven.
Someone has to spend the money. So we'd go over there and we just look at trends. And one of the things that we realized pretty quickly that loads of trends, they didn't start in New York. They actually came to New York, usually from the West Coast. And so, but it was a great place for spotting those trends. So we'd noticed this healthy food and drink trend. We'd already been buying in products for Richmond already in that space, and it was there that we kind of, we saw this emerging healthy eating trend around protein bars, and that's where we began that journey. So and that's something both of us had a kind of entrepreneurial bent as kids, and then as also in our business life as well. Tom had other businesses as well. Yeah. So we shook hands one day after a meeting and decided to jump into the entrepreneur experience for ourselves.
But I think that there's always, when you're working with brands like Red Bull that are on trends and you want to work in that FMCG space, you're always naturally going to veer to the brands that you feel you can connect with. And, when you connect with a brand, it becomes very, very easy to sell that story and to get retailers to buy into a vision. And when both of us started with Red Bull, that journey in 99, it was a brand that was really positioned in the on-trade and people only ever knew it as vodka and Red Bull. And I suppose my job was to try and get it onto the retail landscape, onto the convenience stores and forecourts for consumers to use it for the functionality. And I suppose Niall's job was to tell the consumer, you need to use it for the functionality.
And when you were thinking about, when you were working with Richmond, you had an infrastructure around you, there was a lot of things were done for you. Was it scary or difficult, deciding, look, we're going to now go and start something completely from scratch where it's just going to be just the two of us?
Well, to be honest, what we actually did was we worked in with Richmond, and they were a distribution partner, and they gave us their back office. We worked with them as our partner, as our back office and whatnot. So it was a great stepping stone and way to go into the entrepreneur experience. This time around with Cali Cali, that was completely on our own, and so that's with our own infrastructure around us. So yeah, there was different ways of skinning the cat with being an entrepreneur, and that way we had a safety net underneath us as we did it, as we began that journey.
And we've got a lot of people who are only starting on that entrepreneur experience. Like, what did you do when you were trying to determine, what is our new product going to be with Cali Cali? Like, and like, is there a market for it? What were the steps that you did? When you were starting there, with your whiteboard or your notepad or whatever it was, and you were kicking around. Well, what's this new business going to be? Like, what were the initial steps that you took?
I suppose the key for us is what's on trend at the moment, and when you're working with the likes of Board BIA and different government bodies that can supply that level of information, or the Kerry ingredients of this world, or Glanbia's, it's all about what the trend is today. And our biggest call out, what we were seeing as the biggest call out, was around clean eating, clean label. And we would have taken a lot of that insights from Fulfill as well. So, back to the Fulfill journey, where we were very lucky, as we'd said, working with Richmond Marketing, seeing all the trends that were there. And for us, we seen that gap in the market, that there was a demand for protein bars. There was a demand for a better tasting product. And, then it was up to us to modify and develop a product that can fit in there with great packaging. But forget about packaging. If it doesn't taste great, you're at nothing, So
what we did, as Tom said, we looked at the trends that were going on. We saw two mega trends which hadn't been brought together. One was healthy eating and healthy living, healthy eating from this side, and the other one was street food. And bringing the two together. And what we quickly realized was both of these two trends really started, like in the 80s. Really, you had the health and fitness trend started on the West Coast of the USA. And it's at the forefront of all of the vegan, gluten-free, all that kind of all emanated from there and came across. And the second trend, which is the street food trend, started out in LA with people not being able to afford the rents, and starting the taco vans became these kind of higher end restaurants, and you had this amazing street food and a melting pot of cultures as well. Korea, Thai, Chinese, American, South American, all in this one city. And it's this whole street food thing and the flavors of the world being brought to you on street. So we saw these two mega trends happen, and we said, geez, what if we brought these two together? And then Cali Cali was driving around listening to Mickey Smalls on the radio, and he says he's going back to Cali Cali.
Straight out to Tompkins. Boom, get Tompkins. The IP on that.
I want the IP. So we globally bagged Cali Cali that day. And that was it. So it didn't start with this. So the products kind of came from that place. What we did was we developed a brand, World, which was an LA street food market, and the products, it's a platform brand. The products sit underneath it, and so if they could comfortably live and come from that place, which is an LA street food market, which is healthy and amazing tasting, then it could win. So that's why it's not we came up with the seasoning first, or we came up with the bar first. We came up with we looked at the mega trends, what was happening around the world, and we started from that place, and then brought it, from the consumer, what they were doing, and then brought it the brand and the products then after that.
But I think even for ourselves, you can have a great idea and you can have a great tasting product, but you still need to get the feedback from the consumer, because sometimes Tom and Niall could live in their own bubble. And we were very fortunate that Love Irish, we'd reached out to them in around April of 2019, and we were looking to participate in Bloom. And naturally, Bloom will be 12 months locked down for your space, where the guys were good enough to allow us participate in the Love Irish tent. And for us, we used a lot of investment just to trial, taste, where people would use that to generate cash. But for us, the one objective was 120,000 people. And we ended up, from taking all that feedback, changing some of our packaging, changing some ingredients, and it was really for me, it was the verification that we had something special then.
Because look, we're big believers in we actually take a lot of inspiration from a guy called Byron Sharp, and he's How Brands Grow, absolute must read for any of the people watching this. And we use
we use
this principle.
Yeah.
But one of them is basically, instead of shouting about your minuscule difference that you have from the rest of the category, it's basically to reinforce the category. So in food, the reason people, it's because it tastes great. So we're always going to be about taste first. And the fact that we're vegan or gluten-free and all these other kind of great health benefits that all of our products have, which are fantastic, you've got to take great taste. And that's what we're always going to hammer, is taste first. And the fact that we're made from,
natural
ingredients, and it's a real food and all this other
thing,
it just puts you just even more and more above the rest of the madding crowd.
And can you tell me about like the product range? Like just tell us some of the key products, and when you were thinking about them, a bit of product placement perhaps. When you were thinking about them, how did you see them? Like which was the first one, and how did they build upon each other?
I think that's a really good question, because I think they evolved, yeah. So sauces, we knew
Crisps.
We were looking at a brand called Frank's Hot Sauce. We'd seen it getting sold for 1.6 billion, and we said, hey, we'll take a big interest in this brand now. So we done our research on it, but back to when we were in Fulfill and we had 13 or 14 people working in the offices. And myself and Niall were still trying to be two millennials, fitting in with them, but we were way outside of the demographic.
Yeah.
And we were noticing, we tried to build a really nice culture that every Monday we'd say to everyone, look, we're in an office, eating healthy, eating well, keeps the mindset focused. So our secretary used to go out on a Monday, fill the fridge, and everyone would write down what they want. We were just noticing every week, three bottles of Frank's Hot Sauce. So we were saying there's definitely something in here, that they were using it across a multitude of spaghetti bologneses, making wraps, making their own taco sauce out of it. So
we were kind of looking at going, well, there's something in it, because it's only got like a couple of calories in every serving. So what was happening is the PTs, personal trainers around Ireland, were actually telling their clients, hey, eat healthy, but you can get a bit of sauce to spice up your lunch.
Broccoli and your chicken and your rice.
So use a bit of Frank's. And we were going, it's great, but it's only a singular product. Right. What if there was a range of products that was similar to that? And that just kind of sparked our thing. And then one of the things, I'd spent a lot of time in the US, I'm looking at our previous business, and when you're trying to get into the natural oil for the Cahys and these kind of the natural distributors, you can't have certain ingredients in there. So you had to have so clean labels was a really big thing. So the next brand we wanted to start had to have a clean label, clean ingredients. Really, every ingredient here has got to be something you read and you can understand, because you know it. So it's chickpea flour, rice flour, black beans, green beans. So it's really, really simple. And that was the big trend in the US. So we said, right, what if we could have that in sauces? And then we were also looking at and we've been trying to look at this product, and we came across a manufacturer who had chickpea flour, rice flour, black beans, and green, so real food ingredients. And we said, what if we take the sauces flavors that we were thinking about and put them on here? And that's what we did.
And then to take a step back to that, we said sauces, it's a small enough category. Condiments, it's not growing at the pace, and you're not going to survive just being a sauce range, because you're just not going to sell enough of volume. But we said to ourselves, how can we use this as our sampling campaign? So you can do a lot with sauces, from different recipes to lots of imagery to jazzing up whatever. So we said we would use that as our sampling campaign, and then as people seeing the Cali Cali Buffalo Chipotle, then they'd see it on the crisps. So we were trying to use one as the other. Very similar to what Nando's do with selling a retail range, but they use those. So people wouldn't have walked into Tesco to buy Nando's salts if they hadn't tasted it in the restaurants. Yeah. So we tried to take a lot of inspiration from that. And
so it's a marketing tool as well as being a sales tool. So one hand washes the other.
And if you look at where you were, guys, you were building up this portfolio of brands, as you said there, Niall. Like you're used to traveling, you're used to hustling, sampling, meeting customers. How did all of that change for you guys as founders from around mid-March, when suddenly we were going into lockdowns, travel becoming very difficult, even getting to the UK now is extremely hard.
Yeah. Like when we launched Fulfill in the Middle East, I think I'd spent maybe eight or nine trips out there over an 18-month period, and from regulations and certificates and speaking to retailers, and it was a bloody long process. But when we came into this new world and new way of working, we had to adapt, and we have now gone on sale as of this Monday across Lulu's, Carrefour, Gibson's, and we only started them conversations in April. And
do you know what actually happened was we were supposed to start, we'd actually gone to the UK in January. We'd begun the whole process. We were about to start doing all of the rounds of meetings, and suddenly we were just getting all of these retailers going, come back to me in 2021. Like,
so
we've
done a full week in the UK, and we some Irish entrepreneurs that are based out there had done some door openings for us. So we travelled from Birmingham, Manchester and London, done some really key retailers. We were looking at launches with some of these May, June. And once we hit mid-March, it was like, come back to us in 2021. We're launching nothing new.
So we pivoted to the UAE, and we said, well, because we have a person on the ground over there, and we just said, right, let's just put all our efforts into that. And so that was really so from an export point of view, there was just,
it can be done, and it's probably run smoother than we could have ever believed. That we've been dealing with retailers on Zoom, we've been dealing with our partners out there. From a shipping, we forced container landed, no issues at all. Everything is fine, and it's. I don't think it's going to be hard to justify in 2021 to be traveling at the rates you were traveling historically. I think a lot of businesses will be looking at their budgets in 2021, and there will be a lot of money going to the bottom line that's going to be taken out of it.
Out of that travel budget.
And just, the two of you guys, you're like myself, we're not quite millennials, maybe slightly older. What advice would you give to people who are tuning into this, who are thinking, God, like, how am I going to do it? Like, you, at least you had connections, you had made some money from being in the business.
Yeah.
Like if you were starting out and you're thinking, I've got a product, I need to get it into retailers or supermarkets or restaurants when they're open, or markets which are less affected by COVID-19. Like, what advice would you give?
I think the key for me anyway is research and ensuring there's a need for your product in the market. If you're coming with
Me Too,
another packet of crisps that's the same as any sharing bag out there, what is your point of difference? It's not, if you want to go to a race to the bottom on price, you're not going to be in business 12 months later. You've got to have those couple of nuggets that you're able to bring some incremental sales. If a category is in decline, that you're able to try and help within that category to either bring it back to a level playing field, or if you can bring growth into the category. But really doing your research for me is absolutely key.
Is finding a mentor important, or
pardon?
Finding a mentor or somebody maybe who's got more grey hairs?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things that, again, that'll be part of your research. Mentor will be key. I think having a co-founder. I know that we've been working together now for obviously 20-something years, but obviously as co-founders for over 4 or 5 years now.
5 years now, yeah.
I think it's really important statistically, if you actually look at some of the statistics, I think finding a co-founder, and it doesn't have to be a 50-50 co-founder, could be just someone who comes along for the journey with a smaller
seasoned, as well experienced.
Yeah,
we're a big believer that do you want to own the whole grape, or would you like just a nice big piece of the melon? And a lot of people genuinely get tied up over equity, and it's, if you're going to bring someone into the business
are they going to add value?
Are they going to bring real value? And that's it's about real value.
Yes, the point I was going to say was, statistically, like, single founder businesses have a much higher propensity of failing than one with a co-founder structure. So I think that's something that's been very, because you know, you get knocked down. You're going to get knocked down so many times.
Yeah.
And having someone there to pick you up, or else to say, right, have you thought about this, or to bounce stuff off, you know, it's kind of invaluable, really, I think.
Look, Tom and Niall, thank you for sharing your your journey with the entrepreneur experience. Congratulations on the Boyne Valley deal, and
Thanks very much.
best of luck with Cali Cali Foods. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Tom. Thank you.